Hi everyone, today we're going to do our next video learning about cardboard attachments. So in this case, we're thinking of not like the surface of the cardboard and creating different surfaces or textures, but instead how can we put different pieces together to create more of a three-dimensional form. So we have four basic ones that we're going to look at. Flange, this is also known as tabs, so using those tabs to create a three-dimensional shape. Creating a hinge, think of it like a bracket, an L bracket that you'd be attaching two pieces of cardboard together. And then scoring and bending. We did a little bit of this with our last video, but I'm going to show you how you can do it a little more to make more of like a cube shape, some kind of rectangle. And then slotting. So this would be a way to make two planes intersect. So think of like a T kind of attachment. All right, so like before, we have our cutting mat, we have our X-Acto knife. In this case, using a ruler can be really helpful, having your pencil to draw what you're doing as well. So I'm gonna start with the flange technique. So you're basically taking whatever you wanna create. So I'm gonna use this piece right here, and I'm making small little tabs along one of the edges. So trying to keep them pretty consistent, and the length and size of them is up to you. But once I draw what I want to cut on there, I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to cut all the way through. And then these will become the tabs. So if my goal was to attach this piece of cardboard like this, if I just put glue under that, it's going to be kind of messy. It's not going to stay really well. But if I take my tabs and I pull them each way, all of a sudden it gives me a surface where I can hide my glue, and it makes the attachment that much stronger. So in this case, I put each of the tabs, every other, on every other side. Another thing you can do though, is I can put them all on the inside of a form, if I wanna make a curve, or all on the outside of a curve. And I'm just kind of manipulating the cardboard with my fingers, but I could also score if I wanted it to curve a little bit easier. Okay, so either of these, either attaching it in a curved shape like this, or doing every other and standing it up and down, would be what we do for our flange. All right, let's talk about score and bend, kind of elevated from what we did last time, and then we'll make an L hinge to kind of hold it together. So what I'm talking about is instead of just scoring and creating one fold, now you're talking about making a shape like a cube using this technique. So instead of cutting every wall of a cube out individually, it's a lot easier if it's one piece of cardboard that's scored, because then you have less reattaching back together again. So for this, you'd really want to measure for your final piece to make sure you're getting consistent walls. For me, since this is just practice, I'm just going to try and get about 4 sides out of this. And I have about 6 inches, so I'm going to do every 1.5 inches a line here. Remember, for your actual one, you'd want to measure and be a little more precise. Okay, so now for scoring, remember I'm not cutting through all of the way. I'm just trying to cut through that top layer. And let's say I wanted a triangular form. I could do this same technique with simply 3 walls and have the 3 walls meet, and then all of a sudden I have a triangle. But what I did was try and create kind of a cube, rectangular prism type form. Okay, so now in order to hold this together and hold it in the form, because that's scoring and bending, I might need an L hinge. I could just shove some glue into the seam, but that's gonna show and it might not be as strong as having a bracket that holds it together. So a bracket would simply mean that I wanna take another piece of cardboard, probably smaller, because a lot of times you don't want this to be visible, and I'm going to just score that to create a little bit of a form here. Now I can either, if I want it to be visible, go and glue it on the outside to hold that shape together, or if I want it to be invisible, I would glue it on the inside right here, and then I would glue it on the other side too, and then I don't have to worry about lots of glue and nobody really sees that. So our hinge, you can create a form using that, scoring and bending. And then our last one, slotting. So let's say I have this cube, and for the sake of time, I guess I'll glue this together, or I'll tape it together. And I want to have something kind of coming off of the top of it. So what I can do is make a slot in each of the forms, and then I can stack them together. So what I mean by that is I'm going to make a cut about halfway down into one of these walls. And because I'm going to be attaching a hard piece of cardboard, a thicker piece of cardboard, I'm going to make it a little thicker than just a singular line. So I'm going to open back up what I just did. I'm going to go to one of these and I'm going to make a little bit of a notch. Okay, so I'm putting two lines pretty close together. I'm going to go across and just get this little tiny shape out of there. Okay, now I've got my first little notch. I'm going to go and attach my cube back together again, just so I won't see that piece. And now I'm going to take another piece of cardboard. Let's say I want to attach this to it and have it come up a little bit higher. I can go and create a notch. Actually, I already did. You can see it's the same thing, a little bit wider. And now when I go to attach it, I have intersecting planes that created a T, and the two pieces are attached together. So that would be the slotting technique. So try each of these today so you get a chance to try out different attachments and understand how you could build your form.